Some injuries in that game. Martin Anderson looked like he might be
Martin's
seriously
out.
hurt.
Yep, Martin's done for the season.
How crushing is that? He's gone through so much already.
It was as tough as we're dealing with a kid with an injury because of what Martin's done. You know, he's had 2 ACLs, he's had a shoulder, and for him to to get injured again and not be able to play for the rest of the season, it's crushing because you've watched him rehab. You know, he's a 6th-year kid that came back, took advantage of the COVID year, has worked so hard, and was playing really, really well for us. So, and speaking to him yesterday, and talking to him, he's got a great mindset and a great attitude. He's a special young man. He'll overcome this like he's overcome the other ones, but it's the fact that he doesn't get to finish on the way he wanted to finish is, it's hard and it's tough. You can't, not really words to say. I told him that yesterday, that how you can put it into perspective for him, but just listen to him speak yesterday. I think he's got great resolve. He's going to be successful in everything he does just because of, I think, the life lessons and the persistence that he has when he's continued to develop that and lean on that. So it hurts our team. We lose a real critical member of our team up front, but you feel more just regardless of the team and the impact that it has football-wise. I feel more for Martin as a person, just because it's tough, but you can't control those things. It's part of the game, and you got to deal with them as they come. And he's dealt with it as good as any player I've been on.
Does that mean he's finished? I'm sorry, he's finished? Is his UCLA career?
Yeah, unless he can get a medical. I don't know that information.
Like a 7th year,
yeah,
I think, for him.
That's we haven't even broached or thought about that yet. So.
Gary Smith also went out of that game.
Yeah, Gary's I think Gary may try today. We'll see what he can do. But that's a day-to-day thing.
TJ Harden, it looked like did not dress for that game.
TJ didn't. TJ will practice today.
Siale Taupaki.
Siale is unavailable right now.
Okay. Michael Ezeki, we saw him
Zeke
practice.
Played.
He did play?
Yeah, he played.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw him play.
Did you guys talk?
No, not about that.
Okay.
Other things, not that.
Zach, no, he played at the end, but he looked like he was maybe a little bit banged up.
Yeah, Zach's a tough warrior, tough kid. Zach will be flexible.
Film review, especially defensive pressure. What did you see from?
Yeah, first off, I would give Major Applewhite and their offense a really good. They do a nice job of getting the ball out of Carter's hands quickly. They ran a lot of max protections. Kept the tight end in, kept the back in, and did a good job from really kind of taking care of him. I thought the quarterback was outstanding. I talked to Carter after the game. He's got a great trigger, great mind. Could reset, could get off his progressions and move through pretty quickly. So, a little bit of credit to them in terms of what they did, but we still have to be able to generate a better pass rush.
It seems like you're going a little bit more faster pace, sometimes tempo. Do you determine that before the game, what series you're doing that, or is that an in-game decision?
They're all in-game decisions. I think we have weapons available to us in our toolbox, and then as the game expresses itself, you gotta, what do we rely on? You may have thought, you have a predetermined set of going into the game plan. This is, hey, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. Hey, they're giving us more of this. Well, then we need to morph and get into more of that. So the game expresses itself differently. Sometimes you get out early because of a couple turnovers and you have a lead, and then it's a different mindset, from how they're going to defend you. Other times you're playing from behind. So the cool part, I think, for our players and their ability to handle a lot offensively, so that we have a lot of weapons that are at our disposal, then it's the decisions that are made on game day of what we need to do to win in this certain situation. And you can't predict, to know going into that game that this was going to come down to a drive at the last play with a field goal. Now, we knew they were a really good football team, but I'm just proud of how our guys executed, and we relied on a little tempo at that last drive. I think we made 2 critical plays from a tempo standpoint in that last drive that gave us an opportunity to get in position for Nick to hit the game winner. So it's a tool in our toolbox. I don't think you can do anything 100% of the time. You can't be tempo all the time. You can't be slow down all the time. You can't throw every down. You can't run every down. You really got to let how the game itself expresses itself, and then adapt as the game goes on.
The Colorado AD put out it's no secret that Colorado's struggling right now. They put out a statement saying, we got to do better. What are you expecting to see when a team is kind of in desperation mode like that Saturday?
Yeah, I guess, and that's a good question, but we don't look at it from that perspective. We look at what is their scheme, who is their personality. We're very analytical about what we're doing. I don't think we start to delve into what is the psyche, non-psyche, how do they feel, all those other things. I think you can spend too much time spinning your wheels trying to figure out what other people are thinking. You know, and I don't think I think it's counterproductive for you in terms of what you do is that you have to look at what they put on film. They've played 3 games today, how they're deploying their personnel, what they're doing schematically, both offensively and defensively. You know, what do they do well, and what would you know, what would you think they would continue to try to exploit? You know, what has given them problems? Do they clean that stuff up? But I think sometimes when you start to think, hey, I think they think this, and they think that we think, I think you maybe you're going down a road. We have a system of our preparation that we follow all the time in terms of personnel scheme, whether it be offensively, defensively, or special teams, and then kind of follow it from that to add into the variable of trying to figure out the psyche of the other opponent. I think you can just clutter your mind a little bit, and I'm not that smart to kind of figure that stuff out what other people are thinking. So, you know, we just kind of go based on the tape. That's the cool part about when you watch film. It's, you know, you're not watching a TV copy where there's emotion or crowd or anything like that. You're just watching the all 22 and trying to get a beat on, you know, can you see hand placement? Can you see, is the shade tighter when he's slanting? Is he wider when he's taking the gap? Things like that I think are critical to your preparation, and more of what's the psyche of the opponent.
Watching Colorado, then, what have you seen? What can you take advantage of, and what do you do well?
I think they're a little bit more 4 down now. They used to be a little bit more 3-4, and they've kind of morphed over the last 2 years into being a little bit more 4 down on the defensive side of the ball. They've played 3 quarterbacks going to the offensive side of the ball, so it's tough a little bit to get a beat on terms of what they're doing there. Sometimes you can get an idea, you know, when this guy's in, they're doing this. When this guy's in, they're doing that. I think that part of it's a little bit difficult, just because they've kind of, you know, haven't had as much success on the offensive side of the ball, so they're kind of spinning the quarterbacks a little bit, and you see 3. So you got to prepare for all 3, which is difficult because they're not all the same skill set. You know, Stroud's a little bit more of a thrower than Lewis. Lewis can hurt you with his feet, and he's done it. He's played a lot of football. We played against him last year. So there's a little diversification that way. They're still trying to run the ball, you know, and I think that's what anybody that's is always trying to run the ball, unless you're playing one of those air raid offenses, and they're not an air raid offense that's going to throw it 70 times a game. So, you know, they're still going to try to establish a run. They're still going to try to beat you up at the point of attack, and then they're going to try to play pass and run the quarterback off of that. So, scheme-wise, we'll be preparing for that. Chris Wilson is back for his 2nd year as the defensive coordinator. So, you know, we faced them last year. So I think we've got an understanding of what they're doing. Now they've played, it's an interesting schedule that they played because they played Air Force in game 2, so played an entirely different defense against Air Force, which most people do because of the offense that you face. So, you know, you look a little bit more at game 1 in the Minnesota game, you know, to kind of see what you hope you're going to get on when you get out there on Saturday. But again, you still have to be prepared. You know, South Alabama played some 3-3 stack against us in our game on Saturday, and they had not shown any of that all year long, and I'll give our players credit they handled that pretty well. They're like, all right, this isn't exactly what we prepared for Monday through Friday, but when they gave us this, you know, 14 usually is a defensive end and Russian. Now he's walking around inside as a stack guy and as a spinner. So how do we handle that? And I think our kids did a good job. So they can handle it. They still have 11 guys to deploy on defense, and there's only so many places they can put those guys. So.
Go ahead. Does it help to have Darren on staff, who was recently as an analyst?
Yeah, but I think the offensive coordinator's changed, you know, so that he doesn't have as much insight to the offense. But I think he does have insight to personnel, so that's helped. And he's really sharp football-wise, so you know, we've had success just when we've had Drev and Clancy here when we defended a team across town because of those guys who were here, and they had some familiarity with the players. So that obviously is a bonus, and it does help. But schematically, offensively, they're different than when he was running it because they have a new coordinator in Sanford. So it's a little bit different, but he can give us some insight.
I know you're friends with Troy Aikman. Were you made aware of his tweet from Saturday?
Made aware of what?
Of Troy Aikman's tweet from Saturday. He said that the Rose Bowl attendance was embarrassment, but he said that, you know, even when we were number 1, we only had plus 50,000 for Washington State. And he said we should have a 30,000 seat on-campus stadium, but even if the team played like it did Saturday, even that would be half filled.
Yeah, didn't see that, but I think attendance, I think when you look at it, especially here on the West Coast, is probably relative to your opponent and really knowledge of your opponent. We opened up a year ago against Hawaii and played in front of 30, I think, and then the next week we played at 68,000 when we played LSU. You know, people know the name of LSU, and I think what's kind of lost on me is that you don't understand the South Alabama just because it's a regional school from the Sun Belt, but that's as good a football team as we've played in the last 2 years. You know, so but they don't have great name recognition, and I get that. You know, Stanford opened up against Colgate; they had 26,000 against Colgate. You know, Cal played Cal Davis and had 30,000. You know, we had 29,000 the other day. You know, and I think sometimes it's the name recognition of your opponent, not the level of player of your opponent, because South Alabama's a really, really good football team. It's just unfortunate, you know. And I've been on the other side of that. You know, when I was at New Hampshire, you know, we played FBS programs. We went to Northwestern and played Northwestern at Northwestern, and we're all excited about playing a Big Ten team, and there was 20,000 people in the stands. But it's all perspective. As the opponent, we thought that was the greatest thing in the world. We had 20,000. It was most people we ever played in our entire lives. I think the year before that we played at Rutgers and played in front of 30,000, and we thought it was unbelievable. And I'm sure both of their fan bases didn't think that it was a great crowd. Both of their fan bases weren't happy because we beat both of them. You know, we upset both of them, and we were a really good football team. But New Hampshire didn't have name recognition, but there was a really good team that put the kids in the NFL and did a really good job. So I think sometimes, especially quarter schools, sometimes, and we've run into that always at the beginning of the year. I talked to David, like David, I said again, Colgate's first game at Stanford, 26,000 at the game. But when you don't have students on campus, that's a little bit different. So, you know, again, it's not a slight to South Alabama. It's just I don't think people really know about them. But if you did know about them, that's a really good football team. I think that running back is outstanding. I thought the quarterback was a really, really good football player. And then you look at what the Sun Belt did the week before. You know, Marshall going into Notre Dame and winning, App State going into A&M and winning, Georgia Southern going into Nebraska and winning is a little bit more recognition. But I get that South Alabama doesn't have the name recognition of an LSU, and I think that's really where you are with it.
So you expect the crowds to get bigger as we go on?
Yeah, I think that's always happened. You know, last year I think we opened up with our smallest crowd against Hawaii, and then we played against 68,000 against LSU, and then we played against 40,000 when we played Fresno. So I think, and then you get into league play. You know, and I think when you're in the league play, you're playing Pac-12 against Pac-12, and I think there's always name recognition when you're playing against your Pac-12 opponents. So.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.